right. Hello and welcome everyone. So today we are going to be talking about Grendel, and I'm going to keep it absolutely 100% honest with you. The reason that we're going to be talking about Grendel is because he has this incredible new Tenogen skin that I am way into, and that gives me a really good excuse to talk about Grendel and kind of how I feel about Grendel at the current time. So let's get into it. First and foremost, we're going to talk about a regular build, and then we're also going to talk about a unique Helminth build for Grendel that is also available. So, first and foremost, our regular build for Grendel. This is a one-forma build, pretty simple to put together, and it functions also pretty simply, and it uses his augment if you'd like to go very fast at sonic speeds. So, this build basically revolves around you go max efficiency, you don't go negative duration, you get a good amount of range, and you get enough strength to be relevant for a lot of levels. And then you do Grendel stuff. You're going to eat the enemies with Feast, you're going to put on your Nourish Strike buff, and you're going to go into Meatball mode and jump around and bounce on enemies of regular levels. Now, the thing with this, for Grendel's problem in general, and part of the thing that I wanted to bring up for this video, is that the way that Grendel does damage and gets kills on enemies does not scale outside of the armor stripping and damage on Feast from belching enemies, and also whenever they're in your stomach, the armor stripping is constantly happening. So that actually presents a problem, I feel like, for Grendel, where he eats a bunch of enemies and then he would ostensibly want to go into Meatball mode to start doing his big, cool ult stuff, but Pulverize neither strips armor nor has any kind of, like, big scaling damage outside of scaling to, like, up to the 10 enemies you eat, which it just scales it to, like, its maximum amounts, and then it doesn't have any, like, percentage scaling or anything like that for the enemies that you're damaging. And because of that, Pulverize falls off, especially in Steel Path, but really for any hugely heavily armored targets, because you need to eat them and wait around in order to get through that armor most times. Now, I'm not saying that Grendel is, like, useless or whatever because of it, but I really would, especially now that Grendel looks so cool, like to see him be buffed in some small way for, like, having that scaling on his 4, or, like, getting better armor stripping to use in Pulverize. Like, say, for example, if you have one of your Nourished buffs up, then Pulverize also gains the armor stripping that you have on Feast in the AoE of Pulverize. I think that is a possible really good solution to make Grendel just a little bit better and scale a little bit better and be more of, like, the damage tank that he clearly wants to be based on his kit. And I think that would be really cool for Grendel. Obviously, we're going to show this build off because it does absolutely function in, like, a lot of levels of Warframe. So let's show this build off really quick before we get to the Helminth build. And this is going to be pretty simple. I am going to only eat 10 of the enemies, so you can see the damage from Pulverize. Obviously, I could just eat all the enemies, but that doesn't really show it off super well. All right, so we have 12 enemies, but that's fine. Activate Nourish Strike and bounce around. Go to your 4, bounce around. I do have the augment on, so I can go very fast. And you can see on the heavily armored enemies, like this level 180, not even Steel Path, of course, takes very little damage. Luckily, my cat can strip armor, so that does a good bit of damage. And we can meatball around, and the enemies inside the stomach of Grendel take the damage whenever you're pulverizing as well. So that's all well and good. Grendel absolutely handles himself for a bunch of levels and is very hard to kill. Very chunky, similar to a Naros. Having the 75 shields is honestly an upgrade over a Naros because that means you get a shield gate. So a lot of situations become considerably more survivable, whereas you would otherwise be one shot at much higher levels. So Grendel definitely has things going for him, and I think his playstyle is really fun. But I think he could use some small tweaks to really kind of round him out and make him better for, like, that Steel Path content and other things that kind of need scaling to get there in most cases, or just absurdly high numbers, which a couple of Warframes have as well. With that, let's talk about his Helminth build, because I think it's hilarious. I think this build is super funny. This is Spectro Belch. So Spectro Belch utilizes Spectro Rage, I bet you didn't think that you'd probably hear about this ability very much after Gara came out, and no one uses this ability on Gara. So Spectro Rage is an ability that nobody uses on Gara, but it has an augment called Spectro Siphon that makes it so that enemies that die within Spectro Rage have a 50% chance to drop an energy orb. And this is uniquely good with Grendel. So this build is very, very smallly different from the regular build on Grendel. But the thing that it's trying to do is considerably different than the regular build on Grendel. This build will almost never go into Pulverize, although it can if you're playing this at low levels for whatever reason. And pretty much revolves around using Feast, Nourished Strike, and Spectro Rage to generate a hilarious amount of energy, both for yourself, because Grendel will be very energy hungry, and hungry in general, and give that energy as well to your whole team and just fill the whole map with energy orbs most of the time. So the way that this works is that you really want to eat all the enemies, activate Nourish Strike, and then belch them out in a Spectro Siphon. Because of the grouping into your stomach from your one, you can go into a crowd or into a room or into a couple of hallways, grab a ton of enemies, throw down a Spectro Siphon, throw down a Nourish Strike, give it a second for your enemies to digest a little and get some armor off of them, and then belch them out. And because they were technically in the Spectro Siphon, they have a 50% chance to drop an energy orb. And you can see if you give it a couple seconds, you get most of the way through that heavier armor. And some enemies can still need to be finished off. But this generates a bunch of energy orbs. You saw me collect a ton of the energy orbs right whenever I belched out. I'm at max energy with orbs to spare off of doing that. And you can see there's even 2 more energy orbs over here. And this is with the limited capacity of enemies for the Simulacrum of 20. You can eat tons and tons of enemies, and very notable, if you run out of energy while you're eating enemies, because you are going to get drained per enemy, you will automatically belch them out. So if you are already standing in a Spectro Siphon, it will belch them out, kill a number of them, fill you right back up with energy, and you can continue eating. So there's kind of a fun loop gameplay aspect with this if you just want to be burping. If you just want to be Spectro burping, you can do that, and it is some of the goofiest shit around. And then with this build, of course, you still are quite tanky and very survivable. And it's just a real stupid time doing things with Grendel. But yeah, that's where Grendel is right now. That's kind of how I feel he should maybe be adjusted slightly personally. And a lot of those feelings became more intense because he looks cool now. But yeah, extremely well done. Just to like put it out here, this is the Moloch skin by Volbjorn. Excellent job. This looks stellar. Thank you everybody for joining me, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye, everyone.